Ayes have it. Question now is that part 2 stand part.
Mr Chair.
Dr David Clark.
Thank you, Mr Chair. The amendments to the Limited Partnership Act are made so that those misusing New Zealand companies cannot avoid the new regime by registering limited partnerships instead. So this part of the Act, if we put it really simply, is to avoid an unintended consequence. That is, by tightening up one area of the legislation that dishonest or mischievous directors might pursue a different way of structuring their companies in order to do the kind of ill practices that we're trying to stamp out here, the kinds of things that we've discussed earlier, taking debt dishonestly, behaving fraudulently, and behaving not in the best interests of the company they're representing. So if those same people who wanted to practice those things poorly looked for a different structure to misuse New Zealand companies, well, they're not going to find it in the Limited Partnerships Act, or at least we hope that as the bill is drafted and has been carefully considered that will be the case. And you know, in this part of the Act, we've also got reference to the Financial Markets Authority, which was established in 2011, I think, if memory serves me right, and that has authority for oversight. It's got a responsibility here for overseeing the behaviour in the sector. And in part 2, clause 46, we have the requirements for a limited partnership, and they're all laid out, stipulated. The law is changed so that it's quite clear that the nature of those people who can take up that particular nature of organisation and what behaviour might be deemed acceptable and unacceptable. Mr Chair, the better alignment of these bits of law is, of course, a no-brainer in a sense. I mean, who would oppose it? And that is why it is really good to be able to support this legislation. It's taking sensible steps forward, and as others have asked before us, we must wonder why these changes have taken so long. Those who do commit a serious breach of their duties to act in good faith will face consequences, and that will be not significantly different under this part of the Act. I'd invite the Minister, if he is willing, to speak about any changes that there might be between the two Acts in terms of the kinds of penalties that will apply. But my reading of it is that the penalties apply under the two structures in the same way. Minister, I'm looking to you for a nod of affirmation, or perhaps I can't see any response from the Minister there, but perhaps he will get back to us on that in due course, because it would be interesting to know if there were any differences, because what we are trying to do, as I said at the outset, is ensure that the law is aligned across the different structures to avoid those unintended consequences. So I'd invite the Minister's considered view on that. Certainly I can't find how it would be applied differently. So, Mr Chair, these new powers will give ultimately a power to investigate and deal with non-compliance. And that's what we're asking for. That's what we've got. That will give New Zealanders, will help to build that reputation we have for transparency, for being a good place to do business where people can deal fairly. And we know we need that. We know that currently the environment is lagging. For example, we heard today from Mr Brownlee in Select Committee that there had been 11,000 new small businesses formed in the last since the Canterbury quakes. And that's higher than usual turnover. That would tend to suggest that small businesses are not doing well in that area. Businesses are starting and folding in Christchurch. That tends to suggest that all is not well. And we know that over the past 4 years, more small businesses in New Zealand have been destroyed than created. The number of small businesses being created has dropped substantially, and the number of small businesses that are not surviving has risen. So the environment is not healthy for small business. And I'm sure members in this House who engage with small business, as I do in my spokesperson roles for the Labour Party, will have spoken to people who are struggling to get by. Often small business owners and retail are earning less than the people who they are employing. And that is a situation brought about by an economic environment where the rewards of any recovery are not shared fairly across the population. So everybody wants to know that there's a fair environment one in which anyone can hope to prosper, who puts their shoulder to the wheel, who is willing to work hard and abide by the rules. And so this sets up, Mr. Chair, this...
Oh, you want to sing another call?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
On Dr. David Clark.
And so this piece of legislation sets up the rules in such a way as... Sorry, Mr. Chair, I was in the moment. This legislation sets up a fair system, a system where people can imagine that they can start a business, where they can prosper, where they can get ahead, where they can make the most for their family, for those around them, where they might hope to one day own a home. We know that, of course, home ownership is unfortunately at their lowest rate in 50 years in New Zealand, and this is something that the government has not addressed, and Labour has a plan to build 100,000 new homes across New Zealand in order to help New Zealanders, work with New Zealanders to reach that aspiration. Of course, we'll do that in partnership with industry. But having that dream is part of owning a business. It's part of hoping for a fair business environment and hoping that you can get ahead. To own that home, to have a family that has the things that you would wish them to have as they grow up, a good education, a good healthcare system, to live in a country where there's high trust, not just in business but across the society, and of course work. And we know many employers feel that part of what they're doing is providing a social service. Actually, I've talked to employers every week who acknowledge that a great part of what they do in their workplace is support their employees, and actually a lot of small business employers are very well-minded about this and believe that they are part of their civic duty is to create a structure where they can support and encourage and grow people who might one day own their own business or who might work somewhere else, but for the meantime are in their employ. So, Mr. Chair, I congratulate the government on finally getting the bill to this stage. I hope that it moves quickly from here, because it is a piece of legislation that is worth getting into law. It makes sure that that those white-collar criminals are brought to justice, and that the rules are transparent for doing that. And we applaud that on this side of the House. We wish that some other white-collar criminals that are known closer to this place were brought to justice more promptly too. We don't always get what we want, but this is a good step in the right direction. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is someone calling? You're not standing. Chris Farpoy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.